Okay, good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Joe Campbell. I'm a senior lecturer in the School of Environment and Natural Resources. I'm certainly not Director Tim Hobb from the School of Environment and Natural Resources because Director Hobb is quite busy this morning. As you can imagine, some of the shifts that have occurred at the federal level do affect our research, teaching, and outreach in our school and throughout the university. So he's attending to some urgent matters at the moment. So it's an honor for me to welcome you all today. I want to welcome folks here in the room. It's great to see you all. Hope you're enjoying the breakfast. And to those of you online, thanks for joining our YouTube. So a little background for today's program. So Amy Wald, an SENR alumnus, who's going to be speaking later today. It's a real honor to see so many students in the room because I sometimes reference Amy and your work. I remember that I was getting ready to teach. This was a few years back. And I was teaching for a very large class for the first time. And I got an email from a student who was going to be enrolled in the course who wanted to meet in advance of the semester. And I said, okay, cool, that's kind of neat. I've never had that happen before. And the student who was enrolled in the course came to my office and talked with me about their professional experience in real estate, some of their goals of earning their Bachelor's of Science degree related to environment and natural resources, and kind of asked me to articulate what are some ways that they could make the most out of the class. And I said, oh, this is awesome. What a great career that I have where students meet with me before the semester and chart out a goal and a plan. I'm still looking for this to happen again, Amy. But from day one, my first meeting with Amy Wald was very clear that she had an incredible vision and focus on where she wanted to go. And I think today's event, that the people you're going to meet to learn from both in person and virtually from places like Germany and the Hocking Hills are a testament in large part to Amy and her professional focus and ability to build a community around I think a topic area that's really important to us all. So thank you, Amy. We have in this room a fantastic lineup of speakers, and we have folks joining us virtually. I'll let you check out the bios, and I'll reference the bios that are in your program brochures here in a little bit to learn more about each of our speakers. I want to give a special thank you to the Ohio EPA folks. If you could wave your hand, thank you, April, and everyone for your sponsorship today. At some point, you'll see up on the screen, and for those watching virtually, a list of some of our program sponsors, and we're especially grateful today to the Ohio EPA for your sponsorship and the rest of our program sponsors. That support helps us provide the live stream service that we have. It helps make these programs free for students to register and attend. So thank you, April and all. If you're interested, if you're part of an organization or as an individual, if you're interested in sponsoring the EPN, please talk to Harrison or myself. After the program, we'd be happy to chat with you more about sponsor benefits. Sponsors are included in all of our program brochures and materials, have the ability to table at our programs for free, and are included in all of our promotional materials. At the moment, Molly Bean will be posting some details into the chat for those watching on the YouTube live stream. There you're going to see a program for this event today. This link will take you to an online brochure where you'll find information about each of our speakers, including their headshots and professional bios. And for those here in person, you can take a photo of the QR code. I know some folks here in the room, you're really savvy with your iPhone or Android cameras. I'm looking at some other maybe family members who are a little slower with those QR codes. But there are some hard copies as well of bios, and for our speakers, you can access that using the QR code that's the vertical item on at your tables, or using the hard copies that are also at the tables. You'll find information about each of our speakers. For those, again, watching on YouTube, you are welcome to use the chat function to send any comments, thoughts, and questions that you have during the program. Our team will be reviewing those questions, and we'll take those both online and in person at around 9:10, in about an hour from now this morning. We do have a lot of folks joining us on live stream who were originally intending to be here. We know that there's some weather coming through this part of the country, and including other areas, I think the southern part of the state. So thank you to those who kind of pivoted from being in person to being on the live stream, and it's great to see you all. I have two final announcements. One is, like all EPN Breakfast programs, this is an official zero waste event. So the scarlet-esque colored utensils that you have, both the plates, the cups, the cutlery, those are all reusable. So we actually collect those. It doesn't look like our bin is missing, but we'll get that corrected here in the next hour. So as you're leaving the room, make sure to put those scarlet-ish colored utensils in the right receptacle. And if you're confused by all that, no worries, just leave the items at the table and we'll come and collect them. For the first time in EPN's history, we are partnering with a program called the School of Environment and Natural Resources Ambassadors, Student Ambassadors Program. And the effort here is to help highlight or spotlight the voices of those SENR student ambassadors. And it's a real honor to have our first School of Environment and Natural Resources student ambassador, Hifsah Ayub, who's going to be speaking a little bit about her experiences related to this specific topic and starting a new tradition here at the EPN of connecting what a student might be passionate about or have gained from in their educational experience to our program topic. So please welcome up Hifsah.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here today. There we go. My name is Hifsah Ayub, and I'm a senior here at The Ohio State University. I'm studying environment, economy, development, and sustainability, and this morning I'm excited to introduce today's program on sustainable tourism and talk to you a little bit about my experience studying abroad in Cyprus last May and how it catalyzed my passion for ensuring that tourism remains a force for good. During my time in Cyprus, I had the chance to dive into the connections between history, culture, sustainability, and wellness. But through this journey, I came to understand that tourism is not just an economic engine. It's also a force for cultural exchange, environmental stewardship, and personal transformation. A moment that stands out to me was our visit to the Avakos Gorge, which you can actually see on the screen up there. As someone who doesn't typically consider themselves a hiking enthusiast, I found the experience to be pretty daunting at first. But as we moved through the rugged landscape and took in the breathtaking cliffs and winding paths, I was reminded of why it's so important to preserve places like these. Sustainable tourism isn't just about conservation. It's about creating meaningful connections between people and the natural world, leaving us with memories that inspire action. Our visit to the mountainous region in Omedos was another highlight, and of course, the beautiful beaches of Cyprus are a reminder of why sustainability is so important. While tourism brings economic benefits, it also poses challenges. A lot of Cyprus's hotel development has come at a significant environmental cost, particularly along the shoreline. I think you'll hear similar points from our speakers today, including Karen Raymore from the Hocking Hills Tourism Association. Progress can be made even in small steps. Hotels in Cyprus actively promote water and energy conservation among guests while allowing them the opportunity to experience beautiful sights. But as we all know, there's always more to do. Cyprus is a place of incredible diversity, from the rugged beauty of the Avakos Gorge to the serene mountain villages of Omedos and the breathtaking coastline that attracts visitors from around the world. But our duty to protect these landscapes doesn't stop here. It extends to every corner of the world. We love the thrill of seeing new places and experiencing different cultures. But if we want to continue, we must take action to preserve these irreplaceable environments. I applaud each of you for being in this field and for taking the time to be here today, where we can explore new ideas on how to merge sustainability and hospitality. It's through conversations like these that we create real change, by sharing knowledge, learning from one another, and continuously striving to make tourism beneficial for people and the planet. While I share my experiences, I also want to acknowledge the voices of my fellow students here today. Many of them, like me, are still finding their way in this field and might feel intimidated by rooms like these, surrounded by such accomplished professionals. I highly encourage you to take a moment today and connect with a student. Ask them about their journey and what inspires them. You might just find a spark of the same excitement that first drew you into this field. I hope you're all as excited to learn today as I am. And now I have the honor of introducing our keynote speaker, Amy Wald. Amy is the founder of Greenluxe, a consulting business where she helps hospitality businesses integrate sustainability into their operations. Amy has worked across global markets to help balance environmental responsibility with business success. She's also the co-creator of the Sustainable Hospitality podcast, where she shares insights on creating meaningful change in the industry. Thank you all for your time, and please join me in welcoming Amy Wald.
Good morning, everyone. I know a lot of you may be thinking that introduction from Joe was nice, but aren't they the same age? So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but Joe, thank you very much. When I went back to school, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention David Hanselman, who initially started EPN. They were both professors, and short of stalking my professors when I went back to school, I received a lot of guidance, so I'm incredibly grateful. That is why I'm here today and doing what I'm doing that I'm incredibly passionate about. So it's an honor to be here, and thank you all for getting up this early to be here today. We are at an inflection point with hospitality and tourism. And Ohio isn't left out of that. I know that a lot of people may think, what does Ohio have to do with this conversation? But I hope that by the end of this, you'll be enlightened to think that, as Hifsah said, there is no corner of the world that's left out of this conversation. Tourism really in Ohio is not just about the places that we promote, but it's about the legacy that we create and how do we touch those travelers that come and visit here for whatever reason they're coming. You're going to hear from global industry leaders today on the need to rethink tourism, not just in places we associate with vacation hotspots, but right here in Ohio. So 15 years ago, I found myself at a crossroads, working on cruise ships, wrapped and engulfed in the beauty of the ocean, the golden sunsets, marine wildlife, and exotic destinations. And yet I felt deeply disconnected and like there was something missing. So I started asking myself, why? Why do we embrace nature's beauty while simultaneously exploiting it? And how can an industry that relies on the breathtaking landscapes, pristine waters, and vibrant cultures also be one of its biggest threats? And unfortunately, the answer was all around me, with endless waste, communities overlooked, irresponsible practices, and treating nature as a disposable amenity rather than the foundation of its existence. That realization became the catalyst for my mission today and for the company that I created, Greenluxe. So the result of that experience was something pretty radical and scary at the time. I went back to school later in life, as we discovered already through Joe's introduction. And I pursued a degree here at EADS, Environment, Economic Development, and Sustainability. But let me paint a little picture for you. Yes, I was the mom of all of my classrooms. And while my classmates were debating whether they could make it to an 8 a.m. class, I was debating whether I could sit in a classroom for 3 hours. And let's just say extra coffee was involved. But this wasn't just about getting a degree. I was really motivated to find true answers to my questions and how I could then take those answers to help solve some of these problems that I was seeing. So with my husband's support, I launched a global market research quest to explore sustainability in hospitality, to traveling to some of the world's most sustainable hotels at the time, from Tahiti to the Caribbean, Italy to Southeast Asia, and of course, across the United States. And because I was not your typical college student, I fought to carve out what any self-respecting, slightly older, slightly more determined person would do. I created my own internship. And that internship took me to northern Sumatra, where I spent 3 weeks in the jungle. And that internship included lots of hot cups of coffee in 115-degree weather, no running water, lots of bugs, and face-to-face encounters with one of the most incredible animals in the world, the orangutan. It definitely changed me. But by the end of it, I knew 3 things were true. I deeply loved running water. I was meant to spend my life protecting our planet and the creatures that call it home. and that the tourism industry, when done correctly, has the power to create massive, meaningful change. But there was something else. During my market research and travels, something stood out to me. I felt different when I stayed in the hotels that we had visited. It wasn't just about sustainability in theory. It was something I could truly feel and left feeling changed and different. The atmosphere, the attention to detail, the connection to nature, it all made for a memorable, meaningful, transformative experience. That was my proof that sustainability isn't just good for the planet, it's an untapped opportunity to create behavior change, enhance brand reputation, and build deeper loyalty from travelers. And here's the reality. The traveler is changing. They are more sophisticated, more values-driven, and more intentional about where they stay and spend their money. If we wait to implement these changes, we will find ourselves, even in Ohio, playing catch-up and being passed up as a destination. So the choice is simple: lead the way or get left behind. And you know, I really believe that Ohio's tourism evolution and leadership is really primed or ripe for, capturing. Hospitality, travel, and tourism are in their reinvention era. If I can steal this from someone I admire deeply, Dr. Nadia Jackson-Bayeva, who is the Chief Reinvention Officer. But tourism is one of the world's largest industries, employing over 300 million globally and contributing 10% to the global GDP. However, here in Ohio, tourism is a $50 billion industry, supporting hundreds of thousands of jobs and growing rapidly. And yet tourism is one of the few industries that not only relies on nature, but actively consumes it. We have the tools, we have the best practices, and the frameworks to change this. We also have the opportunity to lead in verified sustainability certifications for both destinations and hospitality buildings. These are certifications that are no longer a nice to have. Sorry about that. They are becoming industry standard. Guests are looking for the assurance that they can travel with choices made to align with their values. Programs like LEED, Green Key, EarthCheck are not just about environmental impact. They provide credibility, enhance business resilience, and ultimately make sustainability profitable. You're going to hear from Dr. Willy Legrand, who I have studied for years, who has been leading the charge in shifting sustainability from an obligation to an opportunity. His work has shown how ESG strategies, when implemented with the right mindset, can transform the travel and tourism industry, not just in reporting, but in real action that drives profitability and resilience. So the big question is, how do we balance nature with travel and tourism? And when you think about what our ecosystem services are that provide us provisioning, such as our food, regulating, which is our water, clean water and air, cultural services, and supporting services, we really have a duty to protect nature. But again, with Ohio, why is it important? Aren't we shielded from all of the climate change talk that's out there because we aren't a coastal destination? I hear this a lot. But we aren't. We have threats to Ohio, and we all know this. We have seen increased flooding, trails and waterfronts, rising temperature that affect wildlife, and of course, extreme weather disrupting travel, business, and infrastructure. We have natural assets like Hocking Hills, Lake Erie, the Appalachian foothills, and vast state parks that need protected. You're going to hear from Claudia Vecchio on how she has helped Sonoma County turn crisis into sustainability success story. The work she has done there has reshaped the tourism support local economies and environmental resilience. And we can take a look at how those lessons can be applied right here in Ohio. Tourism this year at COP29, the Conference of the Parties, was for the first time given its own day. And Dr. Willy Legrand was there front and center. But if you do some research, you'll hear about how 50 countries backed climate action in tourism for the first time. So, move on. A call for collaboration today and setting the stage. We have the opportunities, we have the frameworks, we have the standards. We can use nature-based solutions. We can organize business and event tourism to be sustainably managed, and we can make Ohio a leader in regenerative tourism. You will also hear from Karen Raymore, who will highlight how destinations like Hocking Hills can be models for nature-based tourism that support conservation while driving local economies. By strengthening rural tourism, Ohio can create an economy that benefits all communities. Let's build the future of Ohio's tourism together. But the question remains, the future of hospitality and tourism is sustainable. Will Ohio be ready to thrive in it? Ta-da. And now I believe we will have Dr. Willy Legrand. Hi, how are you?
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm fine. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear him through.
Sound good?
Hold on one second. I can
All
hear you
right,
through the.
let's double check on the sound to make sure I'm coming through.
Yes, you are. And
Sound check, very good.
Willy, you have to tell us where you are today.
I am calling, well, I'm in France right now. I'm in Lyon, in the world capital of gastronomy, or so they say, actually. It's very famous for the food. And that's why I'm calling from this morning. This morning for you, but this afternoon for me.
Well, thank you very much for spending your day with us here today, and I will let you take it away.
Perfect, thank you so much. I will share my screen, and you're simply going to confirm with me that you see the screen. It's a very sort of greenish blue screen. You see this?
We can see it. We can see the screen.
All right, so I'm getting going. So, well, good morning, everyone. So thank you so much, Jacob, Hifsah, and Amy, and also the team at Ohio State School of Environment and Natural Resources for the invitation today. A lot of what I've heard already is quite a bit of music to my ears. And I was at a COP29 this year to discuss finance for nature. And this is quite interesting because the COP conference are all usually very narrow tunnel vision on carbon. But finally we've come to the realization that actually nature is not only a tool, it's a tool for solutions, in fact, for us. Anyways, my name is Willy Legrand. I'm a professor of sustainable business and hospitality management in Germany, actually, but I also lecture in France, where I am right now. And I've been teaching in the US and the Middle East and Asia as well. And I write books. I've written 8 books on the topic over the past 20 years. And I'm actually working on 2 new books, and I think Amy is involved in one of them, on ESG in tourism and hospitality, and the other one on regenerative tourism and hospitality. For us, I guess in tourism and hospitality, it's about taking that word regeneration apart and building it together again by looking at what's happening in agriculture, in architecture, perhaps, in leadership, where things such as regeneration and regenerative has been used a long time. This is a short talk, and the talk basically is going to be, I'm just trying to move my slide here. The talk is the following. I've decided for the title, ESG is Dead, Long Live ESG. This is not a title of mine. This is a title from an article that was written in the Financial Times last fall. But it summarized best what's happening right now. The business case for sustainability is actually clear. Right? A bulk of it is based on efficiencies with resources, and we think automatically energy, water, waste. simply because it doesn't make any sense, of course, business sense at least, to waste those resources. But also, let's face it, businesses cannot thrive when risks are too high. And Amy pointed at that a little bit, or simply unmanageable. And so for me, business, you can think about it this way: business not managing sustainability risks and depleting resources is like the following. We're running a business, but we're not very good at it. So we keep going to the bank to get a credit line increase to stay afloat. So this is basically the state of affair that we're in, except the bank is our planet, and we're running to Mother Earth for additional resources to maintain our lifestyle. But the credit line in this case are the resources that are meant for our kids and grandkids. But we keep taking those on broad daylight. So, the argument could say, well, is sustainability a moral duty? Surely that's correct, but that usually won't be enough now to move the needle for the great majority, including business owners. So sustainability is a business strategy for them. It's a matter of efficiency. It's a matter of risk, increasingly a matter of finance, long-term survival, but also, and perhaps more important, this added value on the offers, the product for or experiences for our customers. But ESG, is this delivering the change we need to see in the industry? I'm a prof, so I'm going to go through some of the stuff here. And in order to explain ESG, we have to talk responsibility in corporate language, right? Sustainability is often understood as corporate or business responsibility. And business responsibility is really nothing new. We've seen, and this is that slide that you have in front of you, a progression in thinking and methods used by businesses to integrate social, environmental concerns into their operations. And that's going back 5 decades, really. So here I propose a summary of some of the main concepts. Now, I show this as a linear progression. It's probably not like that in practice. I'm doing this because for my slide, it just looks nice. But in practice, it's probably not quite like this. And I start with the limits to growth, going to the triple bottom line, the corporate social responsibility, creating shared value, culminating with what we have now in business, which is approaching that net positive approach. So I would argue that the step one for many businesses here as they engage with sustainability, think it's mostly about resource efficiency, really, not much anything else, really. It's about energy, waste, water in mind. And this is fine, but this is really, in a line of sustainability, the first step. Then emerged the triple bottom line, the basic premise that company really should commit not to a single bottom line of financial performance, but that trio of bottom lines, the financial, the social, environmental bottom line, the 3 Ps, in fact, right? The people, profit, planet. And that author, John Elkington, offered a fairly strong critique of his own model actually a few years ago, because he said the problem is it's the operationalization of triple bottom line, which has been a problem because we focused too much on the accounting side of things. In fact, he wanted this to be a paradigm shift in business as originally proposed. It just didn't happen. CSR was built upon this. It was built upon the foundation laid by TBL. And we're looking at the ethical, philanthropic responsibility here of businesses, to achieve positive impact, social, environmental impact, etc. And really, we're looking at this particular aspect. But however, it became sort of in a way, you sort of think that CSR programs that we've seen around, which has been well implemented in hospitality and tourism, in fact, is under massive criticism, actually. And it's largely to the amount of greenwashing actually taking place. Why? Because at the end of the day, this is a highly non-regulated, voluntary, and one could almost say there's a ceremonial approach to CSR reporting every year, with plenty of pictures, some good stories of how business are doing well, but little objectivity, little comparability of performance. So there is criticism here. CSR often lack that strategic integration. This is where CSV came in, creating shared value by Porter and Kramer. Now, this is a blueprint to embed that social good into the capital generating aspect of businesses. So that, in a nutshell, I'm summarizing here, it suggests that social values can be, social issues, you could say, could be a catalyst for innovations, business growth, and development. But yet, at the end of the day, CSV has never really taken off. It's been considered often a buzzword, criticized for the similarity to existing model, but again, lack empirical evidence perhaps, and also lack that paradigm shift. All of this, however, is set the foundation for this net positive approach, which is very much anchored in regenerative circular approach. This is it's much more about enhancing, right, your well-being, improving the ecological conditions, strengthening the social fabric that we've talked about, a systemic change really in sustainability that becomes regenerative and circular. Now, here, perhaps for those of you who are interested a little bit more, because I don't have the time to go into this, but I would encourage you to actually go and check out the work from the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance. It's free of charge if you're interested in this, and download their Net Positive Hospitality Pathway. I think this offers an interesting approach to how to get to net positive, and what does that mean in terms of change, in terms of measurements, in terms of accountability. There are questions whether it's a possibility of a paradox. If we think of reducing nature loss only, for example, nature loss, of course, is a huge topic on its own, much more complicated than carbon emissions for tourism and hospitality. And we are only making progress on the metrics, the framework, but businesses really, at the end of the day, may just hold the key to all of this. So, in a nutshell, you didn't see ESG in all of this so far. Why? Because ESG isn't a philosophy. It isn't a thinking, actually. It's a supporting framework. ESG issues have taken quite a bit of a center, also critique because it's been politicized. But if you take the politics away, at the end of the day, we're just saying that businesses are no longer just faced with dealing with a financial performance, but we need plenty of non-financial disclosures, non-financial information to be able to judge how well a business is doing in society. So if we look at a hotel, for example, we have a direct impact on the local communities we inhabit. Job creations, cultural exchanges, the economic inflows through tax revenue. So it's important that hotels adopt practices that preserve, enhance those communities, and that could be through supporting local businesses, protecting local culture and heritage, improving local living, working conditions of the people working in your business. And it's the same if we look at the environment part of ESG, same thing. The industry can play that significant role. Amy talked about it, about reducing the impact, but it's here when we want to think regeneration, it's not about just reducing the impact. It's actively engaging in restoration work, in protection work. And if you take the investor's standpoint, you would have an interest, because you would have an interest to know that your money is well invested in a company that actually cares, that can do cost saving by reducing energy, water, waste cost, accounting for those, and dealing with risk in order to attract capital. And so all of those are very important issues. And the last one I have here, governance, same thing. Here's, effective management. Basically, we're saying that can amplify effort across the entire hospitality business, across the department. And one thing is clear, and I think this is what I've come to realize over doing 25 years of research on this, we won't solve very much if we don't take the people on board at the end. And management, and this is through governance, can lead that culture change in understanding sustainability as an opportunity rather than just a responsibility. And this is, I think, fairly important. And I had it right here, right? It's to move away from, let's move from just having, we have a responsibility. Let's move to having a opportunity. So rather than asking, well, how much sustainability can we afford? Businesses must ask, how do we accelerate? How do we navigate? How do we benefit from that transition, right? So maybe just to finish here, this is a quote I quite like. We're called to be architects of the futures, not its victims. I mean, if you turn on the news, it's clear that the world we live in now has got two choices. I mean, we can all be bystanders and inherit a world designed by others who may be less interested in my well-being, let alone the planetary health overall. Or, and this is the advocacy here, is we get out of our bubble because we have the tools, we have the knowledge, we have the responsibility to design that sustainable and regenerative future for tourism and hospitality. And for me, it's a sector that's open. I come from geography and from environmental management, but that sector, hospitality, that I've worked so long in, it's such a beautiful sector because it fosters connections between people and it relies, as Amy says, on ecosystem services for its survival. So I would argue you're called upon to be a planetary steward, right? Because we represent the basics of being shelter, food, beverage, social connection. And so I'd say, especially for hotels in this case, let's just not occupy space in this world with our hotels and restaurants. Let's ensure the world thrives in the spaces we create. I thank you so much. This was very short, but that's all I'm given, and I think I probably am over time. And so, if you are keen on this, I had to. Not that it's a big deal, but the book in the middle has got 800 pages on the topic. You can get digital copy, of course, 19 chapters, 100 case studies, and of course, feel free to stay in touch. Thanks very much for your attention. I hope this was okay. Okay, I got it. Okay, thumbs up. Karen, Karen does a thumbs.
That's not the right one. Sorry, it's the other one. Yes. All right. Morning, everyone. I'm Claudia Vecchio. I am currently serving as president and CEO of the Sonoma County Tourism Bureau. How many of you are familiar with Sonoma County? All right, good. I don't have to go into explanation of Sonoma County. I would tell you, I was former state tourism director here in Ohio during the glorious Bob Taft administration. And it was back in 2002, I believe, when the Buckeyes won a national championship, and I took my job right after that. Now you won again, and I'm back in Columbus right after that. So I take it as a personal, you can congratulate me because when I come back, the Buckeyes win. So it's all good. But I'm thrilled to be here. It's always wonderful to be back in Ohio. I'm going to take you on a little journey. Mahatma Gandhi said, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." And I very much believe that that is what we're doing in Sonoma County. There's a group called the Center for Responsible Travel, and this is their quote of what responsible travel means, that it aims to minimize tourism's negative impacts on the environment and maximize the positive contributions tourism can make to local communities. You can read the rest of that, but really, in a nutshell, that's what that is. Sonoma County's had a long history of being environmentally conscious. Jack London, who many of you may know is an author, he made his home in Sonoma Valley and talked a lot about the beauty of the area. He talked about that in his books. There's a horticulturist named Luther Burbank who made his home in Sonoma County and called it the chosen place of all the earth. And then Sonoma County, of course, is home to wineries. We have about 425 active wineries in Sonoma County, about 1,800 wine growers in the area, so it is very much an agricultural region. We haven't always been wine. We started with apples and there's a lot of vegetables and livestock, so we're a place that has definitely grown up in the agricultural world, and our wine growers back in the kind of middle part of 2016-17 determined they wanted to be the most sustainable wine region in the world, and they did accomplish that. In 2019, 99% of our wine growers now are considered sustainable. And yes, there's some controversy about what that means, but let's just go with that sustainability piece. So on the tourism side, tourism in Sonoma County has really been growing. I mean, for the past, 20, 30 years or so, people have been coming to Sonoma County to enjoy the wines. Sonoma County has a coastline, so we have the beautiful, stunning hikes and horseback riding and biking along the coastline. But with that tourism growth really became a growth in resident negative sentiments around tourism. And people were complaining, and the Tourism Bureau, I was not there at that point, the Tourism Bureau really wanted to understand what the heck was going on with residents. As you might imagine, Sonoma County is not an inexpensive place to live, and we had a lot of folks come out of the Bay Area, San Francisco area, spend a lot of money on their houses, and then have tourists come in. And not only tourists, but vacation rentals come in, and that was pretty much the end of their world. So we started out with a whole resident sentiment insight piece until this happened.
Strong winds send flames racing toward more homes overnight in Northern California. Entire towns are evacuated. The death toll has risen to 23. We'll hear from exhausted firefighters trying their hardest to save lives. Welcome to CBS This Morning. The wildfire disaster in Northern California is worsening, and there appears to be no end in sight. The fires are now blamed for at least 23 deaths. 285 other people are reported missing, though officials suspect many of them are just out of touch with loved ones. 3,500 homes and businesses have been destroyed.
And think about this. There are entire towns that are under evacuation orders. Highway patrol officers went door to door in parts of Sonoma County overnight, strongly advising homeowners to leave, get out.
At least 22 large fires are burning in California.
I won't continue on with that, but you can imagine in Sonoma County, there is before October 8th, 2017, and there's after October 8th, 2017. Just like you see from Maui, just like you see now in Los Angeles, the fires came into urban Santa Rosa and took out neighborhoods of enormous houses, multi-million-dollar houses, and very modest houses. Some of those hospitality workers lived in those modest houses, but we as a community were shattered. This is when I started my job. I started my job, these happened in October of 2017. I started my job in November 1st of 2017. We had a crisis to deal with of really epic proportions in Sonoma County. No one could tell me after that incident that climate change isn't real. Were those fires started by climate change? No, they were started by faulty electrical wires with our energy company. But the environment that created the instance around those fires was absolutely climate change. So after that, we got back to this focus group with these residents, and we said, tell us the issues, help us to understand, and these are the issues that they came back with. Everything from traffic to affordable housing, which continues to be an issue, homelessness continues to be an issue, but these are the things that are really making people anxious in Sonoma County. That was before the fires. After the fires, it was really a completely different thing. I started my job, I looked around and saw this place in crisis. There are people still today get very anxious, and I'm one of them. Every fall, when the high winds start and we haven't had rain for 6 months, it is very much an issue in Sonoma County. So as a marketer, as a destination marketer, I was always about the numbers. I wanted to get more travelers, more visitors, more revenue. I wanted people, that was how we measured our success. Not anymore. As of 2018, we said, this Sonoma County is not going to be about the numbers anymore. We cannot responsibly say to our visitors and our residents, we want more. In 2018, we said, we're going to take a different approach to this organization. We're going to take a different approach to this community. We're going to be stewards. We're going to look at it with a holistic idea of what our responsibility is in the travel industry, and we became the first destination stewardship organization in the nation, and because we had to. I mean, to do anything else would have really been irresponsible. They talked a little bit about this triple bottom line, and this is the first time in Sonoma County that we started to talk about this. And boy, can you imagine my conversations with our board of directors, who were they're all hoteliers. They're so, focused on the bottom line. They're so focused on revenue. But for the first time, they really said, okay, let's take a look at who we are. We changed up our plan core elements. They went on this journey with us, and I can't tell you how proud I am of that board. for saying, yes, we'll do what you need us to do to move into the stewardship realm. So in 2019, we started to do some partnerships with key initiatives. One of my favorites, Kind Traveler, which is an online travel agency, just like Expedia. But if you book with them, they do give $10 back to the community, so it does raise awareness and raise some dollars back for community support. We talked about at our annual meeting, we really got the entire industry together to talk about stewardship and talk about what that means and what their role as partners. They're hoteliers, they're outfitters, they're restaurateurs, they're all, they represent the entire tourism ecosystem. But we said to them, let's all be in this together and become stewards. Not unlike this was kind of a time when stewardship was really being talked about in the tourism industry, and we created this Travel Kindly Pledge. And we posted this, we put this all over the destination and said, come on folks, let's make sure that we all are in this together as travelers and as residents. So let's pledge to make this place better, and while you're here, please help us do these things. The next year, we had another fire, another gigantic fire that took out some more areas of Sonoma County. So once again, we were back in crisis mode. Once again, climate change came front and center. And then, of course, we all remember the COVID crisis, but during the COVID crisis, we also had another fire. So there were fires after fires, and it just really became almost untenable for the residents of Sonoma County, I can tell you that. So in our strategic plan in 2021 to 2023, we doubled down again and said that we're really going to take the stewardship promise to a new level. And the mission and the vision was around welcoming those people who would be responsible and respectful travelers. I won't go through all of this, but just to say it really permeated throughout our entire programming and planning process and our priorities as an organization, and those then became the priorities of our partners. We then partnered with a group called Leave No Trace. I don't know if you're familiar with Leave No Trace. They are in a lot of outdoor areas, and they really talk about some of the same kinds of precepts we had before about when you're in a place to leave it better than you found it. We put this into our advertising. We really, across the entire board, we were destination stewards. We did finally do a destination stewardship master plan. When we talk about tourism for the future, it really is that 10 years down the line, what do we want Sonoma County to look like? And it's in this plan, and this whole idea about being a really resilient destination came loud and clear. And so there are initiatives in there that do take us into 10 years and how we want this to continue to grow and how we want stewardship to continue to be a part of our industry. I won't go through too much of that, but one of the pieces of this that is, I think Amy had the Global Sustainable Tourism Council assessment. It's a rigorous assessment of a destination, which we underwent, and we really did, again, showcase how important that stewardship is to us, and these are the kinds of things that they look at as they're assessing a destination. We continue to do resident sentiment surveys, and we find the residents are more tolerable. They're interested in the fact that we are now seeing ourselves as stewards. We're now engaged with them, and it really has made all the difference in the world in terms of how they really see our organization. I'm not going to go through these key imperatives that we did. I'm not going to go through all of them. These are in the master plan, but the first one is to build a naturally resilient destination. And this is kind of this whole idea of what resiliency means. Yes, it's a natural resiliency. Yes, it's being able to mitigate and prepare for and manage through crises. In Sonoma County, that primarily means wildfire crises, but also just to be resilient as an organization to understand what our role is in all of these things. Again, I put this in here, so if anybody wants this presentation, you want to see how our master plan and our look at the future of what we want Sonoma County to be, that you can see all of that. But just a quick video of Sonoma County and kind of how we love to showcase.
When you experience a place like this, so untamed, so unhurried, a place where nature is celebrated and revered,
and this land has been protected for generations.
you'll find yourself not just visiting, but wanting to leave this place even better than you found it. That is,
I'm so happy to be here.
if you can bring yourself to leave it all. Sonoma County, where life opens up.
That's our brand, Life Opens Up. But I would say the one challenge that we still are facing, and that Dr. Legrand sort of talked about this, is measurement. So through all of this, and we have this commitment to sustainability, how are we measuring our success? That is still a nut we have yet to crack, and nobody in the tourism industry has cracked that nut. So it's still an area that we're really hoping that as an industry we'll be able to accomplish. So that is the story of Sonoma County and how we became destination stewards. And so thank you very much. And I might just mention I have a couple of plans out there on the desk, as well as some of our initiatives with Leave No Trace and other groups. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm assuming everyone can hear me. I'm Karen Raymore. I'm the Executive Director of the Hocking Hills Tourism Association. And I've been in destination marketing and management since 1992. So I've seen a lot of the evolution of our industry. And I'm most excited about the recent evolution where more and more of organizations like ours are being focused on stewardship and sustainability. I think that there's been an awakening in the DMO world that really forces us to be responsible stewards and community partners. So I'm just here to tell a little story. Hocking Hills in 2020, when here in Ohio, it was about the middle of March that the governor shut everything down because of the pandemic. And at that time, for 41 days, he also closed all of our cabins. Our cabin owners were not happy about that, but it was only 41 days, and it did give a lot of them a chance to deal with the issues of cleaning practices and protocols. So what happened is that everybody was being told to stay home, and if you're not going to stay home, go outside. And so we were inundated with people wanting to come and rent a cabin in the Hocking Hills, which is one of the things we're pretty well known for. So prior to the pandemic, we had seen lodging tax growth, which is one of our most reliable measurements. Because let's face it, you're not collecting lodging tax unless people are actually coming and staying. And we'd seen from 2008 to 2019, 3 to 5% annual growth. From 2019 to 2021, that growth was 78%. So you can imagine what that means in just the number of bodies that were coming. Also, at that same time, according to Realtor.com, Hocking County had the largest growth in short-term rentals in the United States. Our little county of 28,000 residents had the largest growth in short-term rentals in the United States. The growth was 254%. But this is the real kicker. Sales prices increased 110%. So consequently, everybody saw their property values go up, which is great news if you're selling your property, not so great news if you're not selling, because your property taxes get based on that new valuation. And the share of corporate or non-resident buyers was 26%. So these are people that, have invested in the community, but they don't live in the community or vote in the community. And often that revenue that they're generating with their business is taken out of the community and back to wherever they live to be spent. Also, the state of Ohio mandates every 6 years a reappraisal, which occurred in 2022. And there's a 3-year mandated update that's planned for this year. I don't even want to know what that's going to come out with. But we had local property owners that saw their real estate taxes increase by as much as 300%. So you can imagine that they're quite unhappy, and tourism is the target of their anger. Just totally understandable. That's human nature. You got to find somebody to blame. And in fairness, had it not been for this unbelievable demand during the pandemic, which has continued, and I'm happy it's continued. We want to see tourism flourish in the area, but we want to do it responsibly. And we want to do it as good community partners. So to further add to the problem, Hocking County does not have any land use ordinances or zoning. So right now it is the Wild West out there. The city of Logan has zoning, and they have updated their zoning to kind of rein in the proliferation of the short-term rentals, because they do impact workforce housing, affordable housing. We used to have houses that you could buy for $120,000. Well, those got scooped up immediately, flipped into short-term rentals. And so consequently, that inventory is not on the market. So what can you do? And I think Claudia, I'm envious, because I think they are so far ahead in Sonoma County than a lot of places across the country that are dealing with the same problems that they've dealt with, that we're dealing with right now. I hear this, and we were not the only destination that had this increased demand during the pandemic. I talked to my counterpart in Gatlinburg when it was going on, because our colleagues in the industry, many of them were completely devastated by the pandemic. If you weren't an outdoor destination, at one point, I think in the early days, Vegas was up to like a 37% unemployment rate, and places like Disney felt it. And so we had the complete opposite experience. It was overwhelming, but still, what are we going to do? So we created the Destination Investment Fund in 2021. It's a grant program for Hocking County nonprofits that have projects and programs that enhance the quality of life for residents and provide a new or enhanced experience for visitors. And the reason we did this is we knew we needed to disperse our visitors in a better way. They can't all go to Old Man's Cave at noon on Saturday. It diminishes the experience for everyone and has horrible repercussions on the natural environment. And so by investing in new experiences. We felt that we could disperse visitors a little bit more equitably in the destination and reduce the human impact on the natural resources. We also created the Love Hocking Hills Visit Responsibly initiative in 2022, which invites visitors and residents to take a pledge. You go to loveHockingHills.com, you can see all about it. But we've had over 2,000 people take that pledge so far. And a lot of it is based in the principles of leave no trace. But we also added things like, dressing appropriately for the trails, because you'd be surprised, but there are people that feel high heels are appropriate for a hiking trail. I'm not sure where they're coming from, but we see it. And so and in addition to that, supporting our local small businesses. One thing that is great about the Hocking Hills is we don't have all the chains. You want to go to an Applebee's, you're not going to find one here. So the fact that so many of our shops and our restaurants are what they call mom and pop operations and our small businesses, we want to support that. It's core to who we are, the fact that we are not all those franchises. And then we adjusted our marketing strategy to reduce day trips, because we know that the day trippers, and we welcome them, however, they do not have the same economic impact on our community that an overnight guest has. So we adjusted our marketing. During the peak season, we don't market like in Columbus at all, because, well, besides knowing where we are, that's a big market for day trippers. And we really want the overnight visitors for the sake of our local economy. So to do that, we focused on feeder markets that were 4 to 7 hours away. And for the first time, went into Chicago, which has proven to be a very good move, because the Chicago traveler stays longer and spends more. And I would say the same thing is true of Detroit and Pittsburgh and other places that are pretty nice feeder markets for us. Then the best thing we did is we hired David Holder and his team at Clarity of Place to create the Hocking Hills Stewardship Plan. And I got to say, during the process, this whole process, we had town hall meetings with stakeholders, but the town hall meetings on more than one occasion got a little heated. David is a master at facilitating that conversation. And we saw people's attitudes change during the course of a 2-hour meeting. Zoning has always been a 4-letter word here in the Hocking Hills. Nobody, in fact, when I started in 2007 and I asked about zoning, I was told to never say that word again. It was a 4-letter word. And I didn't for many years. But now we had people that said, I've always been opposed to zoning, but now I understand that it's a necessary tool, or not, if not zoning, land use ordinances, a necessary tool to control the growth and the impact of tourism. So that was a game changer for us, having Clarity of Place create this Destination Stewardship Plan with us. So in the fall, this last fall, we mailed a paper survey, good old fashioned, don't have to go online. You can write your answers on a paper to every household in Hocking County. And we received more than 1,000 completed surveys, which we are pleased about. And we weren't terribly surprised by the responses. When we asked what they liked best about living in Hocking County, it was the natural beauty and the parks and things that you would expect. When we asked what they liked least about it, it was traffic and tourism and, all of those impacts that our local residents are dealing with. However, the real bright light in all of that is that more than 250 people, we asked them if they would be interested to work with a stewardship collaborative, which is one of the recommendations in the stewardship plan. More than 250 people said yes, which we were just thrilled with, because if we can get them all to the table so that we're collaborating with our community, I'm very, very hopeful for the future of tourism in Hocking County. And Also, our Hocking County Regional Planner is now chairing a zoning committee, and proposed land use ordinances are being drafted. So while it's just the beginning and there's a lot of work to be done, we are very encouraged in the direction that we're going. And I'm extremely proud of my board of trustees because, as well as our county, because they all embraced this and said, yeah, we got to do things differently. Like I said, there's still a lot of work to be done, but we're getting there. And that QR code will take you to the plan. So if you'd like to read our stewardship plan, you can scan that QR code or just shoot me an email at heyraymore@explorehockinghills.com and I would be happy to send you the plan. So thank you very much for your time this morning. Great speakers. I appreciate everybody that spoke before me, and I have pages of notes. So thank you, everyone.
Are we on? No?
Maybe just picking up. Are you getting any of that sound? I don't think so. Maybe we just start by if you can go to the podium temporarily.
It's on, you just have to get it really close.
Got a pretty big mouth. I don't know if I need it.
We just need it for the YouTube.
Okay, I'll start with Dr. Willy. Are you there?
I sure am.
All right. So, what common obstacles do destinations face when adopting sustainable practices, and how do you think that they can be effectively addressed to ensure long-term success?
Right, so great question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so this is actually a question I've done a survey. It's years and years ago. I've done it twice actually, but we're going back about 15 years ago when I did this type of work. But in fact, it hasn't changed very much. So the common obstacles in sort of adopting that sustainable practice includes, and it's still the same from about 15 years ago, the limited financial resources, the resistance to change, and the lack of immediate economic benefit, at least the lack of perceived immediate economic benefit. Now, those are all related, I think, and it's a little bit of a chicken and egg situation here. I have hoteliers telling me, or destinations telling me, they hope to reap the benefits, like let's say of energy efficiency, but fail to invest accordingly. So it's like, I don't know, you go to the casino, you hope to win, but you're not betting anything. So, I mean, if you do invest in LEDs, you'll reap the financial benefits. So it's the same thing, right? It's always a cost-benefit ratio. And that's like on so many topics. I mean, food waste is a good one, just as a quick, very simple, hands-on example. Food waste is such a good one because initiatives that have shown reducing food waste is a 7-to-1 benefit to cost ratio. That's direct benefit from a direct business benefit. And that's not even counting the overall benefits on biodiversity emission. So that's that. It's overcoming these challenges and as I said, so this idea of the short-term financial economic gains plus the investment I'll have to do, and I'm unsure about the return, although we do have there's so much material in the meantime. So overcoming those challenges, you asked that sort of, you'd have to require, again, to demonstrate so that economic, environmental, social benefit from those practices. And I would advocate, and that's maybe the prof in me talking here, but that educational programs are still necessary on the topic. And also in your community is to have pilot projects that you do in your community so that you can showcase the effectiveness and the benefit of one particular activity you're doing to local stakeholders, and then you'll have the buy-in, then you'll have the ripple effect. If I come around and I say, well, we've tested this in other destinations, they might just not trust it. But if you have a local guy that actually involves, you have a local party that you're on board to do a pilot project, usually that's enough of a good argument to get the others going.
Can I ask one quick follow-up then?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the model of a destination helping to fund certifications for hospitality groups within the destination? So
we've seen.
So helping to fund, let's say, Green Key Global certification for the hotels. What do you think about that model as a resource?
I think it's a move forward. I think it's a move forward because the message is, I mean, since we know the hurdle is the financial aspect, and let's face it, especially because you're referring to hotels now. I mean, in the US, it's a little bit different, but you still have a lot of SMEs there. You still have a lot of local entrepreneurs who maybe are not quite up to the game, and they see that burden of financial, including the burden of conducting certification. And it's not only about conducting certification, but it's the outcome of which criteria do I have to meet and what investment do I have to conduct in order to meet an imperative criteria on the, so to have the destinations to say, do you know what, we're going to work with you on this and we're going to support you. I mean, what a relief. It's great. And what's great about it is the fact that it brings people together actually at the table, competitors, but are now working together in trying to achieve this. So it's not about, it's like collaboration. I don't know how you could call it. There's a word for it. It just escapes me here. But it is about competing, of course, but it is about a common good and to join forces. And that's what we're talking when we talk about stewardship. And the spark is actually all of us on board to make the place a better place. Great.
Thank you. I think Claudia wants to answer that same question.
Well, I just wanted, oh boy, that is on. I just wanted to mention a couple things. So, as a destination who's trying to incorporate stewardship initiatives within our entire portfolio of partners that include hotels, the hotel, it is very definitely an economic question for them. And it's an economic question because oftentimes the hotels that you see in your destination, and certainly around Columbus, are managed locally by one group. They're managed by a portfolio of potentially of a management company, and then they're owned by a third group. That's right. And it is a complicated whole situation. So if you're at a local level and you say, you know, let's incorporate these initiatives on a local level, you have two other groups that are only looking at the bottom line. That ownership group could care less about what's happening even in the corporate social responsibility area. They are looking at the bottom line. So it's a very complicated, and there needs to very definitely be a good reason for these hotels to buy into this, and I'm sure you face that all the time. It's a complicated scenario for a destination to just raise their hand and say, we want to be stewards, we want to be sustainable. The process for doing that is incredibly challenging. The second part of it is the traveler. So as travelers, travelers say they want to be sustainable, but when they get to the destination, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And then lots of travelers are not actually sustainable. They don't behave the way they say they're going to, and it becomes sustainability from a destination standpoint becomes changing customer behavior. And that is an enormously complicated issue, and one that we deal with all the time. And how do we incentivize? How do we coax? What is it going to take from our standpoint to change behavior? And that's a huge issue for any destination to have to deal with.
Thank you, Claudia. Did you have something?
Sorry.
I just wanted to say this is so good. I mean, this is so good. I wish I'd be in a room now with you, Claudia, and with the rest. Honestly, this has been something we've discussed so long. So there is a little bit of a discrepancy or a change between the U.S. market and what I see here in Europe. You do so this whole discussion about the chain, the franchisees, the owners, so good, so relevant. We've talked about this so much to increase the amount of sustainability that we see in the brand standards that are being sold and that are being bought over by the franchisees, to actually engage the owners because it's to their interest in terms of the real estate. But I understand what she's saying. It's so true. It is. No, I mean, nothing is easy, for sure not. The consumer side, absolutely fantastic. There's barriers to change. And the question is, how do we tackle this? And there are different, I mean, we do quite a bit of research on consumer behavior to see what is it, right? What is it? Is it the carrot? Is it the stick? How do we get people to actually behave a certain way? I still think that a lot of it goes back to what we do with the work that we do, is why university is so important, but the education part. But I think you're making some excellent points, and no one really has said that being a steward is a walk in the park. Otherwise, we would do it. So it is definitely a challenge, but great points.
And I'll say, I have found that you find the people that pay the utility bills. They are usually the ones that are more inclined and invested in making these changes because they know that ultimately they will possibly see some savings.
Yeah.
Getting to them is another challenge.
That's true. All the hotel brands now have sustainability, either departments or whatever. If you go to Hilton corporate, they have a sustainability group. If you go to, they have actually really good sustainability group. But getting that message even down to their own hotels, because Hilton doesn't own that Hilton that's at Easton. They have virtually nothing to do with it. So well, this one might be wholly owned and operated, I don't know, but in most cases they aren't. So even those branded sustainability groups have little impact at the local level.
So Karen, how are you? So I have a quick question. How did or can Columbus resources infrastructure be utilized, or have they been utilized? Have you done any work with Columbus to relieve the pressures of over-tourism in Hocking Hills?
No. Quick answer, no. Other than, like I said, kind of adjusting our marketing strategy, because we probably have the highest level of awareness in Columbus because of our proximity, that most people know that the Hocking Hills are here. But and honestly, I'm not really familiar with what resources in Columbus there might be for us. So any suggestions, I'm open to them.
Okay, I was curious. Maybe we should do some brainstorming and see if there's anything here for you. All right, so
we loved working with other groups.
Collaboration's everything.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I'll move to you, Claudia. So I'm sure that there are sentiments out there, whatever geographic region you're in, that look to Global Sustainable Tourism Council, those kinds of guidelines, rigorous certifications. And let's take Columbus for an example, or Ohio, that would say, well, we don't have the same landscape, we don't have the same tourism demand. How would you urge someone to still consider a framework like that to follow? Maybe not even reach certification, but follow some of the criteria, even though it's a different type of region.
Yeah, actually, Los Angeles just went through a GSTC certification, maybe like LA. So it has very little to do with the natural environment. They do talk about the natural environment and that sort of certification, and Ohio has, and you all know, extraordinary natural environment in beautiful areas, both up at the lakes area, down Hocking Hills, and down to the river to the south. But they also ask you about your capacity to manage the cultural resources of your area. And Columbus has some extraordinary cultural resources, but as experienced Columbus, they would have to identify how involved they were in helping to shape the understanding and the recognition of that history, and how they're going to embrace it and move it forward in a really responsible way. we were asked these questions, and I'm like, I have virtually no responsibility over the cultural resources of Sonoma County, but that was part of these questions. So they went way beyond are you being, conscious of your natural resources? They talked about the cultural resources, they talked about our partnerships, they talked about the organizational resiliency, they asked us about our accounting practices. I'm like, what the heck? This is way overreaching. But they did ask, they really ask a lot of different types of questions, GSTC being, I believe, the most rigorous of all those certifications. The other certification, it really would, it doesn't matter that you don't have national parks and mountains and oceans. It just matters how you're working in your own environment, and that's all that really matters, and how you're being really thoughtful stewards of your area as it is. They don't expect you to be something that you're not.
Thank you, Claudia. I think we're going to move to audience questions.
We're having a little bit of microphone trouble, but Jeff, we're going to have to just shout your question and you will be able to.
Well, this is a wonderful program. I really needed this today. It's so easy to get caught up in what's happening at the federal level. It's wonderful to just sort of see how sustainability is really at the grassroots and sort of happening there. We have a lot of students here, and I'm an instructor at Ohio State. My name is Jeff Sharp, and I teach a number of classes. I think one of the things that I find that might be useful for some of our students here, and I'll be meeting with some possible recruits into the School of Environment and Natural Resources here in the next couple of weeks, is what are opportunities to pursue this? We're so fixated on the federal level that we lose sight of the fact that there are a lot of sustainability opportunities at the local level. And I'm just sort of curious how you guys are rationalizing the current political context in terms of why should somebody pursue a career in this field? Or are there opportunities in this field to go forward? And I think that's something that, at this point, your presentation here inspires me that, yes, there's a lot to happen, but I'd be curious how you guys are sort of thinking about this in terms of, what are the needs and what are the opportunities for young people to get involved in this as a career? Yeah, that's it.
I can start by saying we are there. The market is ready to explode with sustainability. I believe that in 2 or 3 years, you're not going to be looking for a hotel that is certified. If you aren't certified, you're going to be the outlier. However, does it mean that that job exists in every hotel or every destination? It doesn't. And I think that means you have to have patience going in and having conversations. But I think encouraging, let's say if you work at a hotel, the hotelier to start a green team and being a part of that green team and taking on initiatives that aren't typically part of your role in your day-to-day, and showing that you're communicating those with your fellow associates and you're making things happen and you're getting things done. So I think it's a little bit of, it's a lot of being proactive, looking for those jobs. But if you don't have the experience yet, starting kind of grassroots within the organization that you're in and taking ownership of some things, that would be my suggestion. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm not too sure if can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm not too sure if I heard all the question, but it was rotating around this concept of certification and the work at the property. One thing is for sure is that in a corporate world, we see the demand for some kind of sustainability to be super important, and certification in their RFP process. So when corporates want to travel in their request for proposal from the hotel, you will find more and more. There's 50 questions now that we see, including one on certification. That's a critical one for the hotels to say, do you have a certification or not? And therefore, there is it's a push and pull factor here, but we see this from the corporate world asking for that information. I just wanted to say also, thank you so much, everyone. Unfortunately, I have another call now in a minute, so I've got to go. But it's been really a pleasure, and this discussion is so fabulous. So please do that again, and make sure that even though I'm in Europe, I'm allowed to participate in this. It's been really great.
Thank you, Dr. Willy. We appreciate you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, all of you too. Bye-bye. See you.
I apologize. So Dr. Sharp asked, how can students or pursue a career within either a tourism or a destination angle or in a hospitality situation in sustainability? And are those jobs available? Are they relevant? How would you get started?
Yeah, I would just say it's getting more challenging. What's happening at the federal level is changing this world a lot, and it could potentially change it. But I would say a couple things. Amy talked about there's a private sector part of tourism. That's hotels. It's some of the companies that are like tour operators, big tour operators. There's Intrepid Travel, which is one of the leaders in sustainable tour operator. You could go to work for a tour operator. You can work for like the park system. You can work for a company like Leave No Trace, which is a 501c3. I think it is a 501c3. So there are opportunities to do that. But you all, this is going to sound kind of corny, but you all are the future of this. As a boomer, I employ a bunch of folks of your age, and I understand your values are so different from my values, but I so appreciate your values and what you bring to us as a destination organization, and find that company that shares those values and drive those values in the company. So whether you're at a hotel or you come to a destination organization like ours, which there are in every city, and we are changing. We used to be marketers. We used to just be, more and more. We want more people. Now we are destination management organizations. I work in economic development as much as I work in tourism, traditional tourism. I'm working on homelessness issues. I'm working on food insecurity. I'm working on affordable housing. I mean, it is the evolution of the destination organization world it will continue to evolve, but it's going to evolve based on the values of people like you. And that's how we're going to be smarter. We're going to be more attuned to the world, but there are a lot of opportunities. So there's private sector opportunities. There are public sector opportunities like destination organizations. There's government. I was state tourism director. Matt was state tourism director here in front of me. So there are some opportunities at the government level, state and local level. And so there are a lot of opportunities to be in tourism. And as Amy and everybody has said, sustainability will be a part of the future of tourism. There's no doubt about it.
Karen, you have any 2 cents on that?
Well, I totally agree that is the future of tourism, and particularly the future of DMOs. And it is the up and coming younger generation. I'm a boomer too. That's going to be responsible for carrying this forward. But I am seeing all across the country organizations like ours shifting and focusing attention not just on marketing, but on community engagement, which includes everything that Claudia mentioned, from food insecurity and affordable housing and a whole plethora of issues that we deal with. I do have a question with regards to certification with lodging, because we don't deal with having Hilton or Marriott. They're not part of my daily life at all. But we've got 1,800 short-term rentals. Has anybody, Claudia, I guess this is really directed to you, have you had any success in getting your short-term rentals certified or interested in certification?
No, 0 success. Airbnb does do some programming around sustainability, and so some of them are involved with that, but there is no certification that I'm aware of that is for vacation rentals.
Yeah, I hadn't found one myself, but I thought you guys are ahead of us in this whole process, so I thought maybe you'd heard of one. Maybe we need to put a little pressure on Vrbo and Airbnb to up their game.
I think we've got another question.
You can start that, Karen. I'll just follow along on that one.
A minute ago, I didn't realize I was seated next to the Ohio County Tourism. I was going to ask whether that office is providing any support and leadership for the sorts of things we're talking about today.
So Dr. Hanselman asked if the state tourism board is providing any financial services or, support for the resources that we're discussing today. Matt, hate to put you on the spot, but you're right here.
Well, like Claudia, I am a former state tourism director. I moved over to work for the Ohio Chamber of Commerce about 2 years ago. That office is largely focused on improving the image of the state of Ohio and marketing all the wonderful things that there is to do throughout Ohio. They do not do a whole lot on the sustainability space. I'm happy to say at the Ohio Chamber, we are working with Greenluxe, and we're trying to spread the word to the different hotels, short-term rentals, attractions that they should be thinking about sustainable tourism. And maybe a little private sector initiative here will eventually lead to the state doing more in that area. I will give the state credit for their H2O Ohio program. It's one of the best in the entire country. It's helped clean up the Lake Erie and the watershed around it, and it's leading to a tremendous amount of development in the northern part of the state. It's one of the true successes in sustainability that the state of Ohio has led. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And I think the conversation has to start at some point, and so we're starting it now, right? And so maybe we can get some momentum going. Do we have any more questions? I don't think we have any more time. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Everyone, thank you so much for coming out, and can't wait to see where this conversation goes, and maybe we get to come back in a different type of forum and have a different conversation, but I think we're going on to a workshop, so if we see you there, great, and if not, have a wonderful day and keep in touch.
All right, well, thank you to all of our speakers. That was a wonderful presentation. I do want to build on a comment that, Jeff, you asked about careers. There is a program happening around 4 o'clock today here at Ohio State. Molly Bean in the back can offer some details to students who are interested or even non-students. It's going to be about careers in this exact field. And Claudia and Amy, along with another speaker, will be here for that. So if you're interested in a program on careers in this field, chat with Molly Bean after the program. It's at 4 o'clock here at Ohio State. As is our tradition here at the Environmental Professionals Network, we have a certificate of appreciation for all of our speakers. Harrison will be distributing those out. Thank you. I do want to mention all the students who are here today. I think Jeff mentioned it. We've all kind of alluded to it. Really appreciate you being here. And I also want to give a shout out to the Ohio Wesleyan students. If you could just give a quick wave. All right, oh woo. Thank you for driving down from carpooling down from Delaware today. It was great to have you along with the Ohio State and other students. Looking ahead, so we have a very exciting program on March 25th. The topic we're going to explore is the reuse of Ohio's water resources with some really excellent examples from the Central Ohio area. Strongly encourage you to be a part of that. Details here to register are on the screen. In April, we will host our signature Earth Day event called Farm to Fashion, which I think will continue some of the conversations we've had today about how to embed sustainability goals into industry practice. This is going to be a very exciting program, spotlighting a variety of natural fibers. We'll have some sheep shearing all the way to some how to use hemp, cotton, wool into fiber production. At your table, there are postcards related to membership instructions. So if you want to become a member, which we strongly encourage you to do so, sign up today. You can also do so using the QR code. We have about over 2,000, I think we're close to 2,500 EPN members, active members from across the state, the region, and even across the world at this point. Some great opportunities when you become a member of the EPN. In recent weeks, the following individuals have joined our EPN network. So take a second just to check out some of the names, organizations, and occupations listed here. Last, I want to encourage you to please stick around. We actually have this space in use for our purposes until 11:30 today. There's going to be an extended conversation that will focus on opportunities and challenges associated with implementing sustainability practices in your organization or business, and I would even extend to say in your community for those who are current students or volunteers and you don't have a specific organization that you're working with. There'll be some very useful strategies and tips offered in that session. So please stick around. We have refreshments, plenty of coffee, food, and other things out in the hallway still until 11:30, and that's open to everybody who's here in the room. A final reminder that today is a zero waste event. The station for dropping off those scarlet utensils has made it. There it is. We also have compost for any food materials that you'll be getting rid of, and you can follow the instructions for trash and recycling. Thank you all so much. We're going to restart probably around 9:50 in about 10 minutes right here in this room for our extended program. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Amy, for everything you did to bring us all together. Claudia, from joining us from California. Karen, hope to see you in the Hocking Hills sometime soon. And Dr. Willy, we send him our best over there in France. Exactly, right. Lucky Dr. Willy. So, all right. Well, you all take care and hope to see you around for the next hour. Thank you.